Rita. Welcome to another suspenseful interview brought to you by the Enterprise World. In our search for breakthrough innovations and visionary leaders, today we have Roger Stark, CEO and co-founder of BrainWare Learning Company, and his colleague Betsy Hill, who is the president and COO of the company. BrainWare is a unique company providing cognitive literacy solutions focused on how our brains learn, and is being featured as the cover story of the Enterprise World's edition, the most innovative gaming tech solution providers to watch in 2021. Now, I'm sure that you are all on the edge of your seats wanting to know more. Well, without further delay, let's dwell deeper into the world of cognitive solutions and their application. Welcome, Roger Stark and Betsy Hill. Thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you. Yeah. We're delighted to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so first question. Can you please brief us about your company and about your professional journey?
Betsy, would you like to go first?
Okay, I'll go. Happy to go first. So BrainWare Learning Company is all about helping make people smarter. It's about understanding all the processes that our brains use to take in information from the outside world, to organize it, store it, retrieve it, think about it, make meaning with it, and helping people build those skills so that they're stronger, so that everybody can become a better learner, a stronger learner, and do better in just about everything in life. We use our brains in everything we do. So we're all about how brains work. I started off as a school teacher many years ago. And then I defected, as many school teachers do, and I went out into the business world. I worked for the NutraSweet company for many years, and a variety of other technology-based companies, mainly focused on startups and starting new initiatives. And what we saw over the years, though, is that the research on the brain has continued to evolve, and it's just been fascinating. And I always figured that I would come back to education at some point. And so that's what we're doing today, really bringing neuroscience to the application, how it can apply to learning and teaching and basically human performance.
Mm-hmm. That's great. You have a education background and now you jump to the technology. That's really interesting. How about you, Roger?
Well, my background is I'm trying to think of my thoughts here. Somebody just canceled an appointment when we had to edit this out. But my background is I had a marketing communications company for many years. And we had 5, 6 offices in the United States and China, Europe, and Latin America. And our job was to create interest, arouse desire, and stimulate a call to action. So it was all about helping people have a better life, but it didn't have that first person touch. So as I began to get a little bit older, I started to look at my life and my legacy. And how could I find a more meaningful way in a first person to touch a person's life? Why was that be meaningful to me? Well, because I came as a young man, as a young man married, as a young man with a mother that was single and raised 2 boys all by herself. My mother was a social activist. And so we got to see firsthand what it was like about helping people that are disenfranchised. And I've developed a belief structure early on in life that we can never really be the people that we want to be unless we can attach our individual lives to the most disinformed, most challenged young child in the world. Until we can connect ourselves and our success and our life success to the most deprived child, we're never going to be the people we really want to be. So I decided very early on in this process to dedicate my life for meaningful work for lasting good. As Betsy likes to say, I'm out there, I want to help all of those sea biscuits have an opportunity to be the best they can be.
That's great. You take your personal story into your professional journey. And then do you feel that cognitive solutions are a breakthrough in the gaming industry?
Well, it's beyond the gaming industry. The gaming is a vehicle. What's great about technology on so many levels in so many industries. It creates opportunities for people that heretofore may have not had the opportunity, whether it was by access to technology or the cost associated with it. So in our particular field, in the area of cognitive training and cognitive assessments, it was a very expensive proposition initially in the beginning. 50, 60 years ago, if you wanted to really optimize your child's capacity to be the best they can be, you had a long, expensive journey with time and money, because you would spend a year or two with a speech and language pathologist. You might spend a year or two with a clinical psychologist, a year or two with a neurologist, just trying to provide your child with the best opportunity and the best skills to be best prepared to be the best they can be. And then some doctors came on with some ideas about how do we take 90% of that and standardize it. And so they've been able to do that, and now in the clinical world. And what they understood early on, that the brain was a highly integrated systemic organ. And if you were going to have substantial physiological change with demonstrated sustainability and transfer, you needed to build the brain and work the brain the way the brain was built to work. And so they, over 50 years, developed some 43 cognitive skills that were determined to drive the greatest cognitive growth in the shortest period of time with demonstrated sustainability and transfer. Along came what we do, and what we saw as a real opportunity is, even though it had moved it from that $80,000, $90,000 realm to $10,000 to $20,000 realm, is there a way that we could even drive the price lower? Because remember, our ultimate goal is to be able to reach everybody. We can't do that today, but we're certainly reaching far more people than we ever would before. So we were able to look at technology, video gaming, and utilize this heavy duty industrial strength therapy, propagate it into a video gaming environment so it was fun and interactive and engaging, and use the internet as a delivery system so we could lower the price point to have a greater opportunity to meet greater masses much more quickly than the way it was presently delivered.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about reaching out, and my question is, what fields or industries can benefit the most from the solutions offered by BrainWare Learning?
Shall I?
If you got a brain, you can benefit.
Yes, if you have a brain, you can benefit. So if you can think about the basic processes that we call cognitive skills. So cognitive skills include things like attention and memory and auditory and visual processing. So we use that in every industry. We use it certainly in education. Education is about learning, and these are the basic processes of learning. So if we can enhance those, just about every industry, especially these days, is also about learning, because the jobs of the future, we don't know exactly what those are going to be. So what we can do is prepare everybody to be better prepared to learn whatever that new job is going to be that we can't even imagine what it is going to be. There's some researchers who concluded once in a study that today's workplace runs very largely on the cognitive abilities of our workers. And that's very true. So it's always about thinking and problem solving and seeing things from different perspectives. There was also a Google study not too long ago, a few years ago, where they looked at the things that predicted how people were going to be successful at Google. And interestingly, of those top 7 or 10, only one of them was technical. The others were all about things that involve using cognitive skills, empathy, collaboration, all those kinds of, and those were the best predictors.
Mm-hmm.
We're driving most of our focus today is we've been working with children that learn differently. Because the greatest, when you go into systems or if you talk to parents, it's about pain and gain. And people will run farther from pain than they will to gain. And so we work with parents that have children that learn differently. Because the challenge becomes, if you are a student that learns differently, schools really are not well equipped to work with children that learn differently. God forbid, and I think this is the big message today, if your child ever gets behind, they have no way of catching them up. So the reality is, if you have a child that learns differently and you're a parent, you're pretty much on your own. You've got to figure that out for yourself. And there's not been much about what to do. There's a lot about how. There's a lot about this is what you need to do. That's what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And it's all well and good. But the bottom line is, how do you do that? And so what we've been focusing on is building the how. How do we empower parents? How do we empower teachers? How do we empower employers to have an opportunity to deliver the best opportunities for all of those people? Even when you talk about military, you talk about first responders, who's ever in a leadership role, your job is to provide an opportunity in an environment for each of your people to have an opportunity to be the best they can be, to perform at the highest level, so their dreams and their aspirations, their goals can be fulfilled. What BrainWare does, it offers that opportunity to empower each individual, whether that's an employee, whether that's a student, whether that's a first responder or military, to have the real opportunity to control 50% of their learning variance and drive themselves to have the greatest opportunity to be the greatest they can be. Because as I always say, God did not make any junk, and he didn't start with you. So why not let us step back and let each individual have an opportunity to have a chance to be the best they can be? And so Betsy and I and our team's journey is about helping people understand the truth. And the truth is wrapped, it's like a riddle a little bit, because it's wrapped up in lies, it's wrapped up in truth, it's wrapped up in the secret. And how do you figure these things out? Because these issues are very complex. And the big lie is that intelligence is fixed. Your learning capacity is fixed. And the big truth, it's not fixed. It's not fixed. And the great message in that is, as I tell each individual, yes, your environment, your genetics, and your life experience shapes who you are. But I got great news for you. You're the CEO of You Inc. And if you want different, you can have different, but you got to do different. And we empower people with the ability to do different, because we know the big truth is the fact that you can be better. You can build your learning capacity. And the amazing secret of all of this is that we now know for certain, you as an individual, you as a mom, you as a teacher, you as an employer, for the first time in your entire life, you have an opportunity to provide individuals, yourself or your colleagues, with a real opportunity to control 50% of their learning. 50%. Now, I'm sad we can't control 100%, but most parents feel helpless. They're out there and they feel totally helpless. I got great news for you. The big secret is you can control 50% of your child's learning capacity. And for that employer that's faced with stress and can't find people that can assimilate and process and comprehend and apply information effectively and efficiently, I got great news for you. You can empower that employee to have 50% control of their learning. And what is that baseline? That's the cognitive baseline. That's how information enters into your brain. That's how what allows you to process information for learning. And we can actually empower an individual to take control of 50% of their learning capacity. Heretofore, teachers never wanted to be attached with learning. They only want to be attached with teaching. And I understand why, but I got great news for teachers too. You now can really impact in a very meaningful way 50% of your students' learning capacity. That's a remarkable story that's never been told before. And we're writing a book right now. And we're going to get into all these. This is going to be books for grandparents and for parents and for just anybody that really wants to understand how the brain learns. We are going to walk you through that process. We're going to empower you. We're going to be your guide through this journey to ensure you have the greatest opportunity for success for you, for your loved ones, for your students, for your employees. And that's our goal.
That is pretty remarkable. And then BrainWare is going to empower everybody. And where do you see, both of you, the future of cognitive solutions?
So, this is a very young field. We think about neuroscience. Probably 90% of the neuroscientists who have ever lived are alive today. So it's really in the past 20, 30 years now that brain science has begun to impact, what we do. And so that is only going to expand. I mean, as long as we have humans involved in the process, which we will do most things, then everything is going to have to take into consideration what we understand about how we function as human beings and how our brains and all that happens in them determines human behavior. So ultimately, in fact, these skills, the kinds of skills we're talking about, are actually better predictors of life outcomes than just about anything else. In fact, than anything else. So if you look at, there's some special cognitive skills called executive functions. That term is being used a lot in education these days. It's starting to become better understood in the workplace. But executive functions are how we manage ourselves and how we manage our relationships with other people. And there are three underlying cognitive processes, brain processes, that actually are the best predictors of how much money you're going to make, how far you'll get educationally, what your marital relationships will ultimately be, whether or not you're going to end up in jail or at cross with the legal system. They're basically how healthy you're going to be. So all of these kinds of, if we can help build up these cognitive skills, including executive functions, then we're going to have far better outcomes. And this has the potential to have such an incredible impact. There is a study that was done by OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, where they looked at education and economics, because they're sort of two sides of the same coin. And what they found is that if we could get all students in America to the minimum level of proficiency on academic tests, it would uncover $72 trillion of GDP. The whole world is 75 or 80 trillion or something like that. So this
moved a little bit since that, but yeah, I think it's a little over 80 today. But yeah, the numbers have moved. That data is a little bit of a doubt. Go keep going. It's a great story.
So absolutely. So this has, as people start to experience the kind of impact and the kind of dramatic shifts that can happen, I think it's going to be part of every aspect of learning and training that anybody experiences in their lives. Because if you're not accounting for that, you're just not going to see the kinds of results that we need as a society and as a world.
I think that's a great point. The economics that we're looking at today, with how we're turning out capable workers, it's not economically sustainable. It's just not economically sustainable. So, but where we're at today with cognitive, it's kind of like you used to didn't have a lot of physical fitness. You had a lot of physical therapy. Typically, if you went to war, you got hurt, you had an accident. There was a lot of stuff about therapy, very much responding to a particular issue, a particular crisis. Maybe you would start to really work out because you got overweight, you're worried about your heart, but mostly it was very responding to. It wasn't as proactive. And people recognize that today with their parents and their grandparents and how much they feel today and what they did when they look back. But today in physical exercise, it's very proactive. So you're thinking about going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week because you want to optimize your physical attributes to have as much happiness and enjoyment throughout your life as you can. And that's where we're at today. Mental therapy is morphing into mental fitness. We've had mental therapy for a long time, speech and language, clinical psychologists, neurologists. Neurobiology is where this all came from, and one segment of it. So we're changing. We're going from mental therapy to mental fitness. And that's a fundamental change. And what you're going to see over the next few years, and the military, frankly, is taking the lead on this. The military is taking the lead on this, is that your people are going to want to be as mentally sharp as they possibly can. And if it makes your life easier, for example, if you can make child's learning easier, you can make a teacher's life easier and make it less stressful if you can give them a classroom full of students that learn more easily. It's less stress on the teacher, it's less stress on the student, it's less stress on the family. everybody's not only going to have a better, brighter, more capable child, but they're also going to have a better behaved child, better interpersonal relationships within the home, better interpersonal relationships, what goes on in the school or the workplace environment. So where is cognitive skills? Cognitive skills is moving into this whole thing called mental fitness. And the first challenges that people are working with is where there's pain. And so we're working with the pain, but eventually it's going to go beyond that. People that just want to be the best they can be. For example, I do BrainWare 3 or 4 times a week. Now, why do I do it? Well, because there's a good research about this concept of cognitive reserve. So I work out, I lift, I try to eat right, I try to do the things right. So I want to be as mentally as sharp as I possibly can for as long as I can. So the future for this whole idea of cognitive assessment and cognitive training is unbelievably enormous, because as Betsy said earlier, you can't talk about education without talking about economics. They're one in the inside out. And when I look at the drastic situation going on today in America, where only about a third of our children perform at grade level proficiently. So what does that mean? That means about 7 out of our 10 of our children learn differently. 7 out of 10. 25% of our high school graduating seniors today cannot read and comprehend their own diploma. When I say this 35-40% of the students that perform at grade level proficiently, if you layer that back, less than 20% of our Latino population can, less than 15% of our African American population can perform at a proficient level. Over a third of our first year college students need either basic, remedial, reading, writing, or math classes. And the only thing anybody's come up with thus far is 2 things. Lower the standards, lower the standards, lower the standards. That's how you get a high school graduated person with a degree in their hand and can't read and comprehend their own diploma. And the other thing is, let's abdicate all personal responsibility. Taking the fact that some people just cannot learn. There's going to be nothing more racist and more disingenuous to suggest that people cannot be better at their learning ability. That is just a bone-faced lie. And as we get to make this more scalable and more affordable, we're hoping more people will wake up to the new way. Everybody's working in the old way. They're making a lot of old way assumptions. Well, it's a changed world, and the environment we're operating in right now, there's a great opportunity, I think, to pivot. Why go back to do what we've always done? We need to look at doing this differently, and we need to turn it upside down, and we need to stop trafficking in lies and start trafficking in truth.
Okay, that's great. Trafficking the truth. And my next question is, what message would you like to give to budding entrepreneurs, Roger or Betsy?
I'll let Betsy. Betsy, go ahead, take that. I got some thoughts on that, but I'd like for Betsy to speak on it.
I'm sure. So, there are certainly a number of things that you can say to budding entrepreneurs. I think I'll reiterate something I heard a number of years ago, which is the best thing you can do is find something that you love that loves you back. And so there has to be passion, there has to be belief, there has to be curiosity. You have to find something so interesting that it would be torture not to pursue it. And then thinking about things really from a customer's point of view. So it's not about, I have this idea because you think it's an idea and it's cool and it's different or whatever. But it really has to address a need. It has to be about what somebody will do and use. And if you keep your focus on that, I think put those 2 things together, you'll be successful no matter what you choose to do.
Well, yeah, Betsy, there's all the business stuff that one could go to. You got to recognize, number one, are you solving a problem? That's number one. Is there a need? And will people pay you for it? Can you, whatever it is you believe you can do to solve a problem, can you build it? Can you make it happen? And then secondly, can you sell it? Will anybody be interested in purchasing it? And then do you have the management team to scale it? But I like to go back more basic in that. What I would say to entrepreneurs, and I have been an entrepreneur for a long time, is that I think a couple of things. Peter Drucker said it best, and he said, identify a social need and develop a profitable solutions. I think there's been too much emphasis from everybody all about the money. At some point, we got to start thinking about who we are as people. At some point, as I said earlier on in my particular journey, until we can associate ourselves with the most disenfranchised child in a little corner that doesn't appear like having any opportunity, we'll never be the people that we want to be. So for me to be an entrepreneur, I had to find something that was meaningful, that was bigger than me. You want to make sure that you've got something every day when you wake up, what you're going to do. It's bigger than you. It's more important than you. I tell my people every day, the greatest thing you have, you just don't realize where we are right now. We are saving thousands and thousands of people's lives that before they met us never would have had a life. Never would. How many people can say they're involved with an organization that is literally giving new life to thousands and thousands of people that before they met us never thought there was going to be an opportunity for a life for their child, for their parent, for the worker, for the young guy trying to get started in life. So always what me is I always want to think about, am I doing something that's bigger than me, that's making things better? And like Peter Drucker said, if you can identify that social need and develop a profitable solution, go get it. But I'm going to tell you this, it's tough. It ain't easy. And it's not for the light of heart. And I think that a guy named Winston Churchill said it best, never give in and never give up. Never. You've got to understand what you're doing. You're going to be obstacles. There's going to be, I tell people, I give talks and I'll stand in front of people and I'll say, some in this room think you're prettier than everybody else. Some in this room think you're brighter than everybody else. Some in this room think you got more style than everybody. You got more money, you got better body, you got bigger muscles, bigger boobs, whatever it is you got. You think you're special. I'm going to tell you something. You live life long enough, there's an equalizer. Somebody's going to lie about you. Somebody's going to cheat on you. Somebody's going to misrepresent you. Somebody's going to take advantage of you. Someone's going to abuse you. But you know what? Nobody gives a shit. You're not defined in life by what happens to you. You're defined in life by how you respond to what happens to you. That defines the human being you will be. And it should always be about making everybody greater than yourself. And if you live by that mantra, you're going to have a great opportunity for a lot of success. And I'm not just talking about money. Money will come by its own, but I'm talking about within your heart, having peace with your brain and your heart and your gut. You want to walk in harmony with your own life and be present. And if you're ever involved in a situation that does not let you walk in that harmony of your own presence and those around you, step away.
Mm-hmm. Wow, we have very incredible messages here from both Roger and Betsy. And it brings me to my last question for both of you. How do you deal with work pressure and competition in the market? How do you handle or cope with it?
Well, Betsy, I'm the paranoid one. Okay. I'm all, what I've learned as a little kid, when you come up really poor, some things you start to learn really fast. There's always somebody bigger. There's always somebody smarter. There's always somebody cuter. There's always somebody that's got more style. There's always, you're never, ever. So you can't get hung up in that. You got to focus on where you are. You know what I can control this? I can control me. I can control what I do every day. I can have a big impact on all of my colleagues. So when I look at that question, to me, it's not getting hung up about your competition anymore. I've learned they're going to do what they do, and we want everybody to do well. We do not wish anybody harm unless you're misrepresenting the facts. But as long as you conduct yourself with integrity and you have high morals and ethics, we want you to do well. In our business, there could be 50 companies doing what we're doing that could all do well. We don't ever want to build our success on the failure of another company. But on the same token, I can't worry about them. I got to worry about us. So what we really focus on is doing what we do best. And that's what we continually, every day we wake, I go to bed every night. I wake up every morning and I got a prayer, and this is how I live my life. And it goes like this: any kindness or any good I can do for any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer. Let me not neglect it, for I shall pass this way but once. And so I want to be the best I can for all of my colleagues and everybody we serve. That's what I want to be. And we'll let the cards fall where they may. Either I'm the real deal or I'm a fraud. Time will tell, right?
I will tell. How about you, Betsy?
Well, we're incredibly busy. Is that pressure? I think that when you really have a strong belief in what you're doing and when you see the results, if I'm ever feeling stressed or pressured, all I do is think about the last parent I talked to or the last child, one of our students that I talked to. When you see that recognition in their eyes, that aha moment, that, oh my God, I can do this and I couldn't do it before, that makes up for everything. So if you believe and if you think about and keep reminding yourself of the positives and the good that you're doing in the world, I think you stop feeling the pressure.
Yeah. Pressure for me is, I don't think in those terms, pressure. I think the most rewarding thing in the world is to be able to help another person in need, and particularly a child. If there is a concept of sin, to me, the greatest sin is to make a child suffer senselessly. And there's no reason today that a child should suffer so senselessly. There's a great opportunity for every child to be the best they can be, and being able to help those people is so rewarding. The dopamine that you get out of it. I often tell a lot of people, I read a poem once, you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in the drop. And boy, I take that. I take real meaning to that. That means a lot to me. God didn't make any junk. Let me be clear. And I'm focused on helping all those great little sea biscuits out there be the best they can be. That's not stressful. That is a joy that radiates in my heart. And I hope it comes out with the way I expressed and interact with people.
Well, thank you so much. I feel inspired by having this conversation with both of you, because like just having this short conversation, I can feel your desire, your passion in this field. Betsy, you come from education and then you turn it into some ways, change a lot of people and empower, what Roger said. So I'd like to say thank you very much. That was my last question. And I'm sure that our listeners out there find it very insightful. I find it very insightful and inspiring. So again, thank you very much, Betsy and Roger. Thank you for being with us today.
Enjoyed it.
I'll leave one thought. Remember this, entrepreneurs, never give in and never give up. And if everybody thinks it's a bad idea, it's probably a great idea.